It's heartwarming to see them all just come back together over mutual love of going out, dressing like you're in the 1500s and acting like a complete fool. Because at the end of the day, life's super short and you got to have fun with it.
Brilliant.
Bienvenue. Welcome to Coffee Talk with King Francois I, where we will discover the tales, trials, and talents of Renaissance Festival performers, merchants, and die-hard attendees as we journey by way of light-hearted and even at times heartwarming conversations about the Renaissance Festival world. I am your host, Theodore Jander, aka King Francois I. Bonjour. Welcome to Coffee Talk with King Francois I, episode 20. I am your host, Theodore Jander. In this Coffee Talk, you will share in my conversation with Joshua Jennings, aka Captain Beerly Stumbles of Pirates Inc., a Renaissance Festival performance group dedicated to bringing you the best of nautical mayhem, humor, and musical comedy. They have been heralded as having great shows and are always entertaining. It was a joy chatting with Josh and learning more about him and Pirates Inc. So, grab a cup of your favorite Java, sit back, and enjoy this episode of Coffee Talk with King Francois I. It is my pleasure to welcome Joshua Jennings from Pirates Inc. to the Coffee Talk with King Francois I podcast. Well met to you, Josh, and welcome to the podcast.
Well met, King Francois. Pleasure being here.
Outstanding. Are you gearing up and ready for the new year?
We have shows in January, February, March, and April. So yeah, it's been a steady string guitars and tune instruments.
Swell. As coffee is part of this podcast, I do like to start off with a few questions about coffee and potentially a couple of other getting to know you type questions before we move into our conversation about all things Renaissance Festival and your involvement in them. So to begin, if you are a coffee drinker, how do you take your coffee and do you have a favorite roast?
Okay, so I used to be a very avid coffee drinker. After several heart attacks and health problems and so on and so forth, I was told that I was no longer allowed to drink heavily caffeinated coffees or anything else like that.
Okay.
I didn't really listen too well, but I found that decaf still tastes about the same. I like a lot of Colombian roasts. There's a company out of California that I absolutely adore. When I get a chance to get some of their coffee, it's called Zip 1-2. It's caffeine free, and it's got a very full body flavor to it. It's not too tart. It's not too watery. Maybe add a sugar and some milk to it or a heavy cream. It's good to go.
And it's called Zip 1-2.
Yeah, Zip 1-2. The company that owns it, I want to say, is out of Bigsby, out of the UK, but they ship exclusively to this place in California. A lot of it's cold brew coffee. I'm a creature of simple tastes.
Hey, there you go. Well, and it's nice, though, that with the restrictions that you have, that you found a coffee that works for you and that satisfies that coffee need.
Yeah, for the longest time, I was an avid drinker of Death Wish coffee.
Okay.
And then the heart attack happened, and my doctor said none of that. So it's been interesting. Now, one of my favorite places to go is a place called Revo Cup. It's in Maryland Heights. off of near Dorset Square. It's a neat little place.
What's the name of it again?
Rico Cup.
That answers the second question about the favorite coffee shop. And you had alluded to where it is located in the St. Louis area. I've not ever heard of them.
So they've got a pretty good selection of coffees, and their food is actually really good as well.
Nice.
They make sure that nothing's super heavy, so that it just balances it nice.
I would take it that's one of the reasons why you like it. Part of it is because of the food and the way they're able to balance the food with the coffee.
It's the atmosphere. Everything is very palate cleansing. You never really walk away with that aftertaste.
Yeah.
But like I have never walked away not feeling content, because I've seen people down coffee and being at the end of the day.
Yeah.
But like this was like, have a cup, have a bite, walk away and go, okay, this is a good start for the day.
Perfect.
It doesn't help. It helps that it's relatively close to the studio. So.
Okay. For sure. Are you able then to pick up decaf?
Yeah.
There? Okay. I would imagine most coffee places do.
Oh yeah. They do the little hearts in the foam.
Oh, nice.
If you want. They did like a smiley face one time, and then I guess I just come from Ren Fair, and the lady drew put a skull and crossbones in my coffee one time, and I was like, that is cool. They also do a hot cocoa there that is like, it's creamy, it's hot but not too hot. It's chocolatey but not too sweet to where you're again sugar buzzed.
Right.
It's like nostalgia in a cup.
So nice. Oh, that sounds brilliant. Okay, I'm definitely going to venture there for obviously the coffee, but that hot chocolate sounds divine. Oh my gosh.
Oh yeah.
All right. The next coffee-oriented question is, if you could have coffee with any historical figure and perhaps to be able to sit down at the Revo Cup, who would you choose and why?
Oh, that's a good question. So I actually have been like giving this one a little thought, because I had really thought about it, and this is going to sound kind of weird, but I would like to, if I got a chance to sit down at Revo Cup and have a cup of coffee and just like chew the ear off of any random historical figure of my choosing, honestly. And like I said, it can be cliche or it can sound weird. I honestly want to sit down and chew the ear of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.
Cool.
Because like he said some pretty profound things through his life, through the Civil Rights March and so on and so forth. And like there were things that he said that I want to understand where he comes from. We live in a society where everything now is instantaneous. Click a button, it's there. Amazon, click a button, it's there. And this was a time where patience was key. You had to be patient. You had to wait. You had to be peaceful and kind and calm. You had to work things through, and you had to be diplomatic. And judging by how absolutely hard-headed people are now, I would really just want to pick his brain and be like, how did you do it?
Yeah. Oh
how
my
did
gosh.
you remain so steadfast and patient the entire time? To me, the man was a pinnacle of patience and understanding and compromise. And I would really just like to pick his brain to see what reserves he drew on to get through that time period. Really.
Right.
And it's not like, I know, like, I do music at Ren Fair, so people expect me like, oh, Henry Avery, the pirate, or Blackbeard, or blah, 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 blah. Honestly, I'd really just like to pick Martin Luther King Jr.'s brain.
Outstanding.
He was a visionary.
Yeah, absolutely. And what kind of patience and the ridicule that he received, and what it was for him, like you said, what kind of reserves was he pulling from to be able to make it through all that he did and be able to stand up for civil rights and to stand up for ultimately even his faith and so much. That's pretty cool. It's actually really cool. All right. From coffee, we segue into the Renaissance a little bit. Do you have a favorite Renaissance word? What is it and why?
Okay. Actually, yes. And it's still used in today's language. The word feck, F-E-C-K.
Okay.
Which a lot of people don't understand is use. If you are feckful, you are a useful person. If you are feckless, you are a useless person. It is, to me, it can be used as a very versatile word in not just insult, but in compliment, in basic language. We have a thing backstage where everybody has to pick a word of the day, like something not normally used in normal vocabulary. It has to get dropped somewhere at the show.
Oh, fun.
One of the last shows at St. Louis, Cutty dropped autocracies. It's a term for the automatic response to crisis situations in your life.
Oh.
And we were making a joke about a song, and he says, we don't want you to drop into an autocrisis, Captain. So, and anytime we hear that word, the cue is we all go, ooh, good word, and move on.
Oh, nice.
We like educating as well as entertaining.
I think it's brilliant because it's a way to keep the performances fresh. And just because, one, you don't know how that word is potentially going to be used. Yeah. And like you say, it's educational. So for people to hear it and for the group's response, I like that idea because in some ways it adds a freshness to each show, especially when you're doing a run like St. Louis that's been 6 weekends and you have 4 or 5 shows a day. Brilliant. As we've already gone into a little bit of the performance side, tell the listeners a story about how you fell in love with Renaissance festivals.
I had been to Renaissance festivals for a long time as just a reenactor. My father drugged me out to them, and it was like, well, and it was always, don't tell your mom.
Nice.
And after my father passed away, I kind of stopped going for a little bit. And then in 1998, I get this tap on the shoulder from a friend of mine saying, hey, there's going to be a Renaissance Festival opening in Wentzville. And I went, really? He says, yeah, we should put together a singing group. I went, okay. So what? He says, yeah, we should do a singing group. You're a choir. Why not? I went, okay, cool. So he says, we'll go to the Kansas City Ren Fair and we'll glean ideas. And I was like, okay, cool. We went to the festival and we're sitting there and it's me, Mike, Andy, Pierce, and Dan. And these are all original founding members of Pirates, Inc. Mike O'Reilly was the original Captain Beerley Stumbles previous to me. And we're sitting there watching a Jolly Rogers show. And it was a little chilly outside. And I had this cheap mug in my hand that had Barrel Owner's ink on the bottom of it. The bottom of it got super hot because I had hot cider in it. And the mug came down, hit my leg, burned the letters INC into my knee. And then we're sitting there watching a pirate show, singing along with these songs. We're going, Pirates, Inc., Pirates, Inc. That's kind of how that happened. It was weird.
Oh, brilliant.
And so there was a point in the show at the time where everybody on stage went, yar. And at that exact moment is when everything happened. And my response, like everyone else was supposed to respond with yar as the pirate call. And when that burnt my leg, I yelled, no. And then somebody shouted drink. So now during our show, anytime somebody yells yar, we go, no, drink. And it's just kind of stayed. I very slowly nudged my way into Ren Fair. And then when St. Louis kicked in for cast, I was introduced to a community that supported its members and tried to understand them and was accepting. You get your nuts, you get your goofs, you get your political factions, you get your cliques, whatever. But end of the story, Ren Fair is just it's a community, and it's a very accepting community, and it's something that I respect and have worked so hard just to see it grow. I don't think I could ever see the Ren Fair community and friendship and families that come together at Ren Fairs fall apart. It hurts to see it happen sometimes, but it's heartwarming to see them all just come back together over mutual love of going out, dressing like you're in the 1500s and acting like a complete fool. Because at the end of the day, life's super short and you got to have fun with it. So why stay mad over stupid things when you can come together over a mutual hobby, business, whatever, and have fun? At the end of the day, it's all you got.
Brilliant. And you touched on one of the biggest things that I've encountered so far, not only with the interviews that I've had for the podcast, it's been the experience of talking with merchants and other performers and patrons and whatnot, just how significant and family oriented, in essence, the Renaissance Festival is, how welcoming. And you're right, there are those different groupings, but when it comes down to it, it's one great big welcoming family. And you see that with a lot more of the diversity that's prevalent in the world. And that's a good thing, that no matter what kind of character you want to be, you're welcome at a Renaissance Festival, because you're going to see not just pirates like yourself or kings, queens, peasants, etc. There's a myriad, and so welcoming the Renaissance festivals can be.
I agreed. We just on stage, we see from steampunk to Star Trek, and our favorite joke is when we have a Doctor Who in the audience. And it's like, oi, mate, you're the one that came from that blue box, right? Yeah. I pooped in there. It throws them for a loop, but it gets them chuckling, gets them to understand, like, even as a patron, when you come out to these things, we're going to play along. We're going to treat you like friends. We're going to treat you like family. And it's a lost art these days. To me, and this is my opinion, it's why Civil War reenactments are becoming a thing of the past. There aren't so many of them anymore because they are staunch in their military recreation and don't really interact with the public. At Ren Fair, we learn to become friends with the people we're talking to. At Civil War reenactments, you are there as a military presence to educate the public about the past. That's it. So it's a very different feel. And I came from reenacting Civil War into Renaissance Festival because of this, because of that feeling. It's like, I liked Civil War reenacting. I enjoyed learning the history. I was a history buff for years, still am. But the feeling you get at a Civil War reenactment versus the feeling you get at a Renaissance Festival it's by far and away leagues.
And there's also a difference too from those who perform in really just on stage for an audience. And when you're in a building and you're putting on whether it's a straight play or a musical or something along those lines, there are similarities, but one of the biggest differences is that there's no fourth wall.
Yeah.
You are, as you mentioned, you're engaging with your audience. You're talking, you're face to face with them, and you are this person and this character, whether you're on stage and even ultimately if you're seen in the lanes walking about, you're still essentially this character. Though I would imagine the entertainment, the guest acts at Renaissance festivals, their restrictions aren't necessarily as strict when it comes to breaking character when you're out amongst the patrons. I don't know, unless it's something that each group establishes potentially, that when you're going to be out and about between stage sets, do your best to maintain character because we want to create that illusion. I'm guessing that's something that potentially is part of the group. And I have seen the contracts that go out. So I know that is something that they do strongly recommend. It's like, we're creating this illusion. They want you to make sure that you have the right kind of cups and bowls and stuff.
So being a former member of cast, when we do practices and whatnot together, and if we pull somebody new in, we give them a full blown orientation of like, this is what it's like at Renaissance Festival. These are the kind of conversations you're going to have. On stage, you don't leave without at least an instrument. We walk in groups. That way, if somebody says, "Hey, could you do that song?" We can do that song in the lanes and do accompaniment, so on and so forth. Join another act on stage, et cetera, And I tell them flat out, I said, you do not want to use your regular name at Ren Fair because there is a level of woo that will follow you home.
Yeah.
When everything breaks down to it, you're still there to commit to a character. So whatever your character's name is, one, it needs to be funny because that's how our show rolls. Everybody has a parody name. But two, you stick to that character no matter what. The moment you step off stage, you are still that character. We refer to each other, Cutty, Otto. We got the new guy, Bart, and so on and so forth. The greatest line I've ever been told, and I use it with when I break in new people, is that you have to stay in character because people, just patrons, will do their best. They will make it their goal to try to get you to break a character. I think you can't do it. We like to play with cast and lanes, joke around, goof around, have fun with it. I tell them that we're not just performers, that we are also members of the cast. Sure, we're bought and paid for, but we're going to give them 110% every step of the way, and we bust our butts doing it.
Yeah, brilliant. So speaking of the doing it part, so in one or two sentences, describe what it is that Pirates Inc. does as part of the Renaissance Festival world.
Sea shanties, original music, drinking songs, Renaissance rock, and Celtic rock. We're there to have fun, and we're there as long as we're having fun, so is the audience. That's our main goal.
Brilliant. So you personally started as part of the cast with the St. Louis Renaissance Festival. So when was Pirates Inc. officially started?
So Pirates Inc. Officially started July 5th, 1998.
Oh.
So it'll be 25 years in July. And we never performed at St. Louis because our captain, Mike O'Reilly, was in another group and they performed at St. Louis. So he didn't want to double dip. He didn't want to jump from one stage to the other. I get it. But since they were performing at St. Louis, he's like, man, just join cast. We'll hang out. We'll have fun, so on and so forth. And
there you go.
I was like, yeah, sure. So I went from being cast as a performer at KC to cast as just cast at St. Louis. And at the time, year one was shenanigans, but it was fun. Made a lot of good friends. Some haven't returned, some have.
Yeah, to have had that longevity, to have been around and to have been a part of cast, and then to now be a performer. And in some ways, as those entertainers, as the performers, you are a part of the bigger picture. You're a part of essentially the cast because you have that interaction with those of us who are walking around in the lanes and doing our parts as the characters that we portray. But it makes it that much more real.
Yeah.
When you all are able to have that same interaction, that same direction. Yeah.
Well, and I think a lot of people don't find it this way. I think a lot of the long-standing and more popular groups at Renaissance Festival have learned that if you separate being a performer with being a part of cast, you're going to have that disconnect where, yeah, sure, I'm just watching this show. But if you treat it as you're a member of cast and they are a part of your show, then people are going to have a lot more fun at your show and it's going to be less cliquish. I like our show being inclusive. I like shows that are inclusive because it makes you feel like you're part of the show instead of just sitting there watching it.
Right.
One of the main things we tell people at the end of our shows is, thank you for coming out to the show. And remember, when you sit down to watch this show, you're not just fans. You're not just patrons of the Renaissance Festival. You are friends and you are family. And we want to see you back every time. You have a great day. And that's how we close our show.
Brilliant.
Because it's true. You never know the friendships that you will forge at a Renaissance Festival.
Absolutely. And to be doing that for as long as you have, and the fact that you go to multiple Renaissance festivals, I would imagine you see familiar faces at each one, whether they're merchants, other performing groups, or even other patrons or patrons as they're attending. Like we've mentioned already, it's like being welcome home in essence each time. You know that you're going to have that opportunity to see your friends and your family in essence. One of the components of Renaissance festivals in the Renaissance festival world is that component, is that you can go to a Renaissance festival in California and go to one in New York or go to one in Texas. And the likelihood of you either seeing a performer, a merchant, there'll be some potential. And as a performer yourself with Pirates Inc., that you have patrons who are going to be attending those festivals on a regular basis year to year, but then the ones that travel to different festivals. And that's such a unique thing, I think, to Renaissance festivals. And that's one of the things that makes it so special.
Oh, I was floored last year. End of the season, we were in Arkansas and we had fans drive up from Florida, Texas, Iowa, New York, and Nebraska. Then they drove out to Hot Springs, Arkansas to come see our show.
Nice.
And I was just absolutely floored because I always post this thing on our fan club page where it's like, hey, we're going to be at this festival. If you would like, we have a discount code for the hotel that we're staying at. And afterwards, if you want to come party with the Pirates, cool, blah, blah, blah. And we go to Cracker Barrel and eat and drink a case of beer afterwards. Whatever happens. But I was absolutely floored by the sheer attendance of people that just drove from all over creation to come, just to come hang out with us. It was humbling. That's when you know you've made some sort of difference. And that's why we do it.
Yeah. Brilliant. Speaking of why you do it and sharing and having those experiences as a performer, being a part of the St. Louis Renaissance Festival cast, having attended, being guest cast at a couple of other festivals, having experienced meeting a wide is probably an understatement, range of people and encounters. What are some of your favorite memories that you would like to share with my listeners and me?
One of my favorite moments is there's been a young boy who is autistic and has a multitude of health problems. And he has been coming to see our shows now for almost 12 years.
Oh, wow.
And has not missed a show by as far as like if we go to like St. Louis, he's there at least 2 or 3 weekends, if not at one show every day for the entire run. And when we first met him, he was high functioning and was very mobile. And now he is non-functioning, low verbal, and is wheelchair bound. But he'll nudge to come down the hill to the pirate ship to watch our show. He has songs that are favorites of his that we play that if we see him in the audience, we'll play those songs. And like we will alter the show just for him. Seeing his face and his family in the audience has always been a blessing. A few years back, we offered what was it? It was Domestic Abuse Awareness Week. And all of us painted our ring finger on our right hand purple in support of domestic violence, at which point we made a post, which we share now every year, stating that if you come to our show and you're having a problem, go to our merch table and request the Cross Keys special. and we will pull you up. We'll take pictures with you, and then we will get you a shirt and take you backstage for shenanigans and such to get you away from the person who is causing the situation of abuse. We take you backstage, at which point one of us runs to go get staff to let them know so they can deal with the legalities of it. When you come to our show, you're safe. And we've had a couple people take us up on that. I'm honored that people trust us to that extent, to be able to put their safety in our hands.
Wow. That you yourself in a group makes this and participates in this awareness, and the positive impact that can have is really brilliant and beautiful.
I've always been taught that no matter the situation, whether you like someone or dislike them, they never deserve the worst that life can give them. And if you can be of any aid to help them in any way, shape, or form, do so.
Yeah.
Because life will reward you for the good that you do and punish you for the bad.
Yeah.
Look at me being all deep and stuff.
No, that's all right. That's some of what I'm going for with this podcast, just wanting those stories and those experiences, because it really shines a light on what Renaissance festivals are for anyone who, whether they're performers, merchants, or patrons.
Yeah.
And those kinds of memories. And you have memories as a performer when you're doing a musical or a straight play. You have memories of interacting with the cast and the potential applause that comes with after. It's a different kind of memory, and it's a different memory if you're part of a vocal group that does perform on stage, but you're putting on a concert. And it's not to dismiss those at all, because all of those are unique experiences and the memories are different and the audience's experiences are different. But the fact that you incorporate some of what you do as far as awareness, as far as wanting to make those connections with your audience, again, shines a light on what you do as a performer, what Pirates Inc. does when they're on stage, off stage, and ultimately then the bigger picture of the Renaissance festivals.
Yeah. Ultimately, I've always seen Ren Fair as a place of inclusion. So it's like when it happens, and it does happen, where drama is put in place.
Right.
It happens, whatever. People are people. That is the end result. And that's the one thing that I try to remind everybody is that it doesn't matter what walk of life you're from. There's still a human being capable of doing great right or great wrong. Mm-hmm. And you have to be able to forgive and move past. If you can't, what kind of life are you living?
Right.
Sometimes you just have to breathe and walk through it.
Amen to that. Because there's a lot of stuff sometimes that we have to walk through and breathe through. So
just that deep breath.
Yes.
One more show.
Right. Yeah. As this is a Renaissance festival oriented podcast, as we've very much established, I am curious who would win in a joust, you or Pirates Inc. as a whole, or the Royal Jester, and why? So ultimately you're competing against the Royal Jester. So it could be you, or if you'd like, it could be taking Pirates Inc. as the whole band going up against the Royal Jester.
Yeah. So I see this in a couple of ways. I see Pirates Inc. and the Jester both losing, because this breaks into a situation of like stormtroopers shooting at red shirts.
Nice.
One way or another, both are going to lose, and it's going to be hilarious either way, long as people are entertained.
Right. I would imagine that's a huge part of why you do what you do as part of Pirates Inc. And what part of the group's mission is you're there to entertain, and through song and through hilarity and shenanigans.
Oh, it's like for the Halloween weekend, we keep a bowl of candy on the stage. And we tell parents, like, if their kids are collecting candy at the festival, because I know some of the vendors do it and whatnot, we tell them we have a candy dish down here on our stage for kiddos that want to collect candy for Halloween. Really, it's about the fun. Yeah. If you're not having fun, why do it?
Absolutely.
I mean, this year for Halloween weekend, I dressed as Bill from 3 Pints Gone. The pictures of us standing next to each other are eerie, hilarious, but eerie.
Nice.
Because I put a pillow inside my shirt to kind of puff out a little bit, and I grayed and whited my beard out. I let the horseshoe grow in, wore a Hawaiian shirt all day at fair. It was amusing, and it was 3 points. Fans got a tickle out of it, and our fans got a tickle out of it. I started doing stand-up comedy. And then
really,
when I was doing stand-up comedy professionally, I did very blue humor. And then somewhere in there, I picked up my guitar and remembered, I used to do choir a lot. I spent most of my time from grade school to high school and even parts of college in a choir room.
Yeah.
So my comedy went from just extreme blue ranting humor to musical humor. And somewhere in there, it just kind of traveled off into Pirates, because when Pirates first started off, it was an all a cappella group. It was just, we're going to sit there, we're going to sing this pirate shanty, but we're going to make it pretty.
Mm-hmm.
And somewhere in there, it went from this, we're going to make it pretty, to key of group, to let's add instruments, Ren Fair Rock. That is the most awkward slide and transition I've ever seen in my life, but it worked.
Yeah. Absolutely. And the fact that you've been going strong for a goodly number of years and you have the following that you do is pretty brilliant.
38 weekends a year. And I think this year, our 2023, we have 43 weekends under our belt this year. We're going to be tired.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, that's a lot. Now, are most of those then Renaissance festivals, or do you have other types of weekend gigs that you do?
Renaissance festivals are the majority. We do have some concerts that we do where we get up on stage. We've got full drum kit, bass, electric guitars. What we do at Ren Fair is Ren Rock Light. What we do on stage is Ren Rock Heavy, with some metal and some punk and some Celtic, et cetera, et cetera. It's like watching Flogging Molly with pirate hats. End all be all, it's a matter of not letting ourselves down. Because if we're not having fun with the music that we play, we'll go, okay, we've been playing this song for 4 years. It's time to retire it. The audience may love it. But if we step up on stage one more time, we're like, the audience will be like, okay, bye.
Yeah.
So, I mean, in order to keep the show fresh and strong, we have to stay fresh and strong. If we start getting bored with the show, the audience is going to know it, and they're going to walk away.
Right.
You'll lose the magic. It's like taking a kid to see a sports show and they see the mascot walking around. Well, they love seeing the mascot walk around. That is cool. That is a walking cartoon character. The moment they take their head off, the magic's gone. So if we don't swap out music and get rid of some of the stuff where we're like, I don't want to play this anymore. Like Wagon Wheel. It just, if you don't swap out the music, you lose the magic. So I prefer to keep the magic. Heck, right now I'm writing a song that would actually work better for a choir than it would for Pirates. I don't know how that happened, but I'm like, I got soprano, alto, bass, baritone, tenor in here. What's going on here?
I really like the concept of keeping that magic, changing things up, keeping things fresh. And that's a part of that motivation, because when you're looking at 43 weekends, to keep that energy going for all of those shows. And with Renaissance festivals in particular on those weekends, it's not like you have one performance during the day. You have multiple, and you have the freedom, though, to change things up within each of those shows.
Yeah.
So speaking of, as far as keeping the magic and being involved with Renaissance festivals, for people considering being either part of cast as an actor, as a performer, being either as a soloist or part of a performing group, or even potentially merchants or attending the fair, what is the best piece of advice that you can offer?
Just do it. You're always going to have some sort of anxiety, be it a social interaction anxiety or stepping up on stage. You have to do it. Now, if it's stepping into performing, I'm always going to say, be on cast first. know how it runs. It's the reason that, like, when St. Louis does something, we're all about promotions. We're like, hey, when's your guys' this? When is this? When is this? When is this? And we jump all over the parades and so on and so forth, because I want the guys to be as much a part of cast as they are up on stage. I want them to respect what the cast does as much as they want the cast to respect what they do on stage, because you have to give to get. If you're looking to join Renaissance Festival, either as a patron, a patron, member of cast, a performing group, a vendor, you have to remember that when everything breaks down to it, just do it. If it makes you happy, it's worth it.
Absolutely.
That's the end goal. You can live your life miserable and sad, or just do it. Go through a little bit of anxiety and be happy. Happiness is what's worth it.
So it's really just no hesitation, just do it, jump in and
there's always going to be hesitation. There's always going to be hesitation.
Right.
When you, as you said, swim, when you first learned how to swim, everybody stood at the edge of that pool, looked at the water and went, everybody has that hesitation. It's the follow through. You just have to do it. Stop being afraid of what can happen and appreciate what's going on now. Today is a gift. That's why they call it the present.
Right. Very true. Very true.
And
we've covered a lot of ground. Nope. That's totally okay. So as we bring today's coffee talk with King Francois I to a close and guest Joshua Jennings, and on behalf of Pirates Inc., at which festivals can you be found upcoming? And if applicable, where on the internet can folks find you?
You can find us on the internet at facebook.com/We Are Pirates Inc. As for what festivals you can find us at, in June, we will have 3 weekends in Southern Missouri, the White Hart Renaissance Festival. July, we are tentatively booked for a private party and a concert. This one's kind of on the hush-hush, so I can't really give too much information. In August, the Midwest Pirate Festival in Nebraska. In September, we're looking at possibly first 2 weekends of the Kansas City Renaissance Festival, and then St. Louis. And then we'll be back in Indiana for their Celtic Fling at the end of October. November 1st week, we'll be in Hot Springs, Arkansas at the Hot Springs Renaissance Festival. And then we'll be immediately from there at Texas Renaissance Festival for its closing weekends, and then Louisiana Renaissance Festival for its closing weekends. And then December, we'll be at the Kentucky Dickens Festival. And then we have our Christmas fan club show, the Yo Ho Ho Christmas Show, a Renaissance affair, where we usually do 4 hours of stage time. We bring a couple of performers from Renaissance Festival to come and open up. And I think a couple of years ago, we had Jussie Linder. Last year, we had Bella the Bard. We had belly dancers come out at one point in time. We tend to have fun with it. It's nice. Basically, it gives everybody that chance of, like, fair's been closed for a little while, must go to a festival. Because Red Drop is a real thing. It's like, it's over. Boo. But yeah, 42 weekends.
Wow. Sweet. Fantastic. Josh, I do want to thank you so very much for taking this time out of your day to chat with me, and appreciate your insight and sharing about your experiences with Renaissance festivals, with Pirates Inc., and what it is that the group does, and they're performing in the year coming up. You got a full year for sure. And so do want to say that may your day, your new year, be filled with Renaissance merriment and many blessings to you in your craft of performing and piratical shenanigans.
Thank you. I would like to say, may you have a happy and fulfilled new year, full of gloire de flifty and whatever it is the French do. But seriously, thanks for having me.
Oh, you're very welcome.
And I really do appreciate it. Gave me a chance to talk up some of the other bands as well. And like, in the end, it's a community.
Definitely. Thank you, Josh.
No, thank you.
You're welcome.
I do hope you enjoyed this piratical episode with my guest, Joshua Jennings of Pirates Inc. A side note, Josh had mentioned the Revo Cup coffee shop Since the recording of this interview, Revo Cup has relocated to Olivet, Missouri, near the intersection of Interstate 170 and Olive Boulevard. However, in its place in Maryland Heights, you will find Ethio Coffee. All that said, if you are interested in learning more about Pirates Inc., I am including a link to their Facebook page in the show notes. Be on the lookout for the next episode to be released on Friday, June 30th, where I will again highlight more festivals for July, August, and September, as well as hear a favorite Ren Fair story from another friend of mine. If you are a performer, merchant, staff, or diehard patron in or of the Renaissance Festival world and would like to be featured on Coffee Talk with King Francois I, reach out to me by way of clicking on the following link provided in the show notes: www.theodorejander.com/Coffee Talk Podcast. Would you like to receive early access every other week to each new episode, as well as receive a behind-the-scenes glimpse into the production and creative process for the podcast? If so, join the wonderful community of listeners supporting the show and making new things possible through Patreon. Learn more at www.patreon.com/Coffee Talk with King Francois. The link will be provided in the show notes. Thank you so much for tuning in to Coffee Talk with King Francois I. A bientôt. See you soon. Ciao for now and au revoir.